Welcome back. Welcome back. You know, if you watch the show at all, you know how much I have always loved late night TV, just the whole genre of it. Our guest today shares that same passion. From Letterman and Carson to SNL and Conan, he explores late night TV, past and present. Audience, give it up. I can't wait for this conversation. For the host of Inside Late Night Podcast, give it up, everybody, for Mark Malkoff, everybody. Hi, Mark.
Hi, thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
No. Thank you. I think people are always looking for a good podcast. I always love a good conversation. Let me start off with this. I know for me, I used to watch Johnny with my papa and my mama, and I used to record the monologue with a tape recorder. When did your love of late night start?
It happened pretty early. I think I was like 5 or 6 maybe on Friday nights getting to stay up to watch Johnny. And it was this whole world. I mean, the guy was so likable. He was funny with kids. He was great with animals. I knew who a lot of the comedians were. My dad would introduce me to Jonathan Winters. So just to watch this guy be able to have a job and just be so funny and get to be so charming and likable with everybody from, kids to animals to stars, and just do the Karnak stuff, which was a little over my head, but I still, the physical stuff and just watching all the adults laugh, it really sucked me in.
Mark, don't you think, I heard this said once in a great documentary that PBS did on Carson, and I know that you specifically did an entire podcast on Carson. You guys can listen to that too. But don't you think it's pretty amazing, Mark, that after all these years, everybody, including what I do, everybody that does a job like Johnny is basically doing a version of a format that he and Ed McMahon knocked out on a beach in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, true. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Carson, the only thing, the desk came with Steve Allen, but pretty much everything else Carson made his own. And talk to every host, they're still, they'll still say, emulating Johnny. I mean, you just look at Seinfeld, everything he's accomplished. He still says going on Carson was the biggest moment of his career, past or present. I mean, when I talk to people about Carson, people that went on this show, people that knew him, they cry because it just was so special going on that show.
And what was it like for you, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, what was it like for you to then get a job in this genre? You worked, amongst others, you worked for my other North Star, and that would be Letterman. What was that like for you? Look at you.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. What was that like for you to work for Dave?
It was so strange because I was at Dave's very first show at CBS, and that's where this is, outside the Sullivan Theater. So to go from that, and when I was 18, I'd be outside the theater sometimes waiting for the comedians that I wanted to meet, like George Carlin coming in the stage door, and suddenly I'm thrust inside. It was definitely fish out of water to be there, and to, I was one of the rare people that worked on the show that could be in the studio during the show, and just to watch Dave and the last time he ever did an anniversary, which was his 5th anniversary, and it was definitely one of those things to be there at the Hollywood for our Christmas party, to have Dave come, which I think was the last time he ever came to a holiday party in '98. It was just, it was very fish out of water, and just to watch, just to be there with my hero. But I have to say, so many people on staff felt the same way. It was that the reason that a lot of them stayed what they did as loyalty to him, and they just really, everybody just loved that guy and that worked there.
Well, and from, Leno himself to Letterman, to Bill Maher, to Seinfeld and Drew Carey, and I could go on. All the comedians revered and looked at Johnny in a certain way. Do you find, Mark, and all the guests that you have on your podcast, from writers and crews, do you think that then the second generation of comedians, did they look at Dave the same way that first generation looked at Carson?
They do, and I mean, Jon Stewart at the Emmys said that when Carson passed away, Letterman did this whole thing at the Emmys, and Carson said, "You are our Letterman," and it's true. I talk to these people, and it's glorious. They're so excited to relive going on Dave, and then you have these other people that were only on once, and they're like, "What did I do wrong?" And you have that with Carson a little bit, but it was definitely, for a lot of these people, it was just, it was that special going on with Dave, and it was Especially, yeah, I would say that generation thing, that thing that you brought up. If you talk to people from, yeah, the Jon Stewart to a lot of the people that have on, they still to this day. I mean, Dave is their guy. I mean, he did definitely change television, the genre for sure.
And then, Conan the same way. I mean, if you go from Carson to then Dave and then Conan,
Yeah.
if Carson invented it, or really, Steve Allen, but if Carson reinvented it, then Dave reinvented it and kind of subverted it. Conan did the same thing. Your thoughts on Conan?
I was there the first year when they couldn't fill the studio, and he was so unpopular. And Robert Smigel, who was the head writer, who did the Clutch Cargo Lips and Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog, we met, and he would talk to me and said, Mark, Conan's actually really funny, and he's funny. It's just going to take a while. But once they got that summer, he started to really get it, and I'm so glad that they had the luxury of time. They canceled him at NBC, but no one wanted the gig. Greg Kinnear said no, Rosie O'Donnell said no, and it was just perfect timing for Conan that he was able to find his own. But in terms of what they did, I think it's just so hard to do something that has never been done. And I would say both Dave and Conan had that going for them with their shows.
We got to break for a break, but I got to tell you, and you know this as well as I do, what Lorne Michaels, what NBC did with Conan, having an unknown replace Letterman, that could never happen today, right, Mark? That would never happen.
It could not happen, and you would not have a year to find your voice.
Nope.
It's very, very quick. That if you don't produce and you're not good right away, they will not give you that time. I mean, Conan won the lottery, and thank goodness, because, I mean, he's a genius, and we love him today. And it was just very good timing, but never today, you're right.
We're going to take a quick break. More with Mark when we come back. Back in a moment, everybody.